Hello there, and welcome back to another Minecraft tutorial video. My name is Shells, and today we are going to be talking about how to build circles. Now, I know most of you already know how to build circles. Besides that, there are tons of other tutorials out there talking about it. Tooltips online you can use, or even softwares you can use in-game like World Edit, which will let you instantly put circles into the game. Heck, even I've covered this exact topic in one of my tutorial videos already. But circles are one of those fundamentals to building that I would highly encourage every single one of you who wants to get really good at building to master. And when I say master, I mean get to the point where you can intrinsically know exactly what you need to do to a line to get it to be the exact right curve you're hoping for, no matter what your scale is. And I'm hoping that this tutorial will help you get to that point. Before we begin talking about circles though, we're going to need to talk about how to make straight lines. This is something that I've talked about in multiple tutorial videos, but I'll talk about it again here. To make straight lines, you use repeating patterns. This can be anything from just the same number repeated over and over and over again, like this line here, made of a bunch of 2s. Or it can be a more complex pattern of, like say, a 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2 kind of pattern, like this one. So here we have our 90-degree angle and our 45-degree angle. As you approach the 90-degree angle, the block count for your pattern is going to increase. So as you approach this line, your pattern will look something more like a 9 repeating pattern. And depending on how long your line is here, that pattern can get longer too. So for instance, if your 90-degree line is, say, 100 blocks across, your pattern could be a 50-block repeating pattern. Theoretically, that number can increase into infinity, but at some point it gets so large that you can't even tell anymore. So then, on the opposite end of the spectrum, as you approach the 45-degree angle, your pattern will drop in your block count until it reaches just the repeating pattern of 1s all the way across, which is, of course, your 45-degree angle. And again, depending on how close to infinity you wish to go, this could be a pattern of, like, say, 50 1s, and then a 1, 2, and then another 50 1s. It really depends on how large your size is. So why do we need to know that? Well, because this same concept is what's going to help us determine how to build our circle. When we have a circle, we actually start with a 90-degree angle facing this way, and then we gradually change that angle till it is eventually reaching a 45-degree angle on the diagonal here, and then back to the 90-degree angle over here. Think of it this way. There's two extremes to a circle. You either have 90-degree angles until they eventually meet at the corner. This is, of course, not a circle at all, and is, in fact, a square. Now we have the other extreme, where we have a 45-degree angle that connects all the way from these points. This is also not a circle, and is in fact another square, just one that has been rotated 45 degrees. I'm going to lovingly call this diagonal square shape a diamond, just to simplify my terminologies. So to make a circle, we have to be able to transition from the 90-degree angle square to the 45-degree angle diamond, and kind of find that sweet spot in between. So when I'm building a circle, I always start out by marking out, first of all, where my center point is going to go, and then figuring out what my radius is going to be for the actual circle. Either radius or diameter, and I go ahead and mark that out. I also, I don't always fill in the 45-degree angle, but for this instance I find it to be helpful, because all you really need to do to make your circle is actually to do a single 1/8 of the circle. The rest of that can be that same 1/8 of a circle copied all the way around. So then what I would do is I would actually go over to the tip of where my radius is, and I would actually start from here and start marking out. And usually I can go out by like an arbitrary number, and then just like you're slowly approaching 1, the general consensus is you could start out with a number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then the next one would be 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we're counting down. That makes sense, right? Because then we're eventually reaching a 90-degree angle. That's how that works, right? Well, you might notice that this shape does not actually make a circle. And in fact, what this shape eventually makes is more of like a rounded square. Like a square that just kind of has the corners rounded off a little bit. This is a far cry from a circle. On the other extreme, you could start out with a shorter number and do the same thing, you know, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, since obviously starting out with 6 or 7 didn't work, let's start out with 5, and then you'd end up dropping down to a single-digit number for over here, and you end up with the other extreme, which is closer to your diamond shape. This is a diamond with rounded off corners. And thus is the battle you face whenever you're making a circle. Inevitably, you will either find yourself making more of a rounded square shape, or you're going to find yourself making more of a rounded diamond shape. Now, I wish I knew of a proper formula for figuring out exactly what this number of blocks going across is supposed to be relative to your circle. There probably is one out there, I just don't know what it is, but it would be lovely to be able to find something like that. And I can't tell you how many times I have built a circle and then stepped back only for it to be a rounded square yet again. The best I can figure is that if you have a rounded square, it means that you have this starting number is too large, and if you have a rounded diamond, then it's too short. There's also something to be said about plunging to either extreme too quickly. If you have the 90-degree angle and then instantly switch to a 45-degree angle, you make an octagon. That's also not a circle. This is also one of the reasons why doing the pattern here of, say, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 doesn't actually work. You have to be a little bit more gradual with it. So the method I mentioned last time I talked about circles is that you can start your edge just counting down, but then once you reach a 2, you can start doing a 2, 1, 2, 1 pattern until you approach the 45-degree angle, and then you can switch to doing all ones. So instead of just looking like a 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 pattern, this looks more like, and I actually added another 3 into this pattern, so it ends up looking more like 4, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. That way it slowly eases itself into switching to a 45-degree angle instead of just like rushing to it. And as I mentioned in the last video where I talked about making circles, having the 2, 1, 2, 1 pattern is usually sufficient for most smaller scale circles. But as you increase the scale, you're going to have to start adding in more and more numbers into your actual counting down segment. Similar to how I added a 3 here. Well, let's say you start with like 7, so then you would have to have something more like 7, 6, 5, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, in order to make it all the way around. And of course, that is highly dependent on the size of your circle. I also find that more often than not, before I start increasing this number that I start out with, I actually find that I need to add more numbers into the actual curve to make it larger. Let's look at this circle I made before. This circle is the same one you see over there, the smaller one. If we increase the block size by only a couple of blocks here, you might be tempted to then increase this starting number from a 4 to a 5. But that's actually not what you want to do. As you can see, this is still 4 across. So all I did was I just beefed up the pattern a little bit more. So I have the 2 3s going across, and all I did was I added another 2 to the equation. So that way it goes 2 2 1 2 and then down to the 1 1 1 1s. That way I can increase the size of my circle and not increase the starting point here. However, like all good things, there is going to be a limit to how often you can do that. Here I tried to just beef up my curve as much as possible. Now you can see that this circle is probably passable, but it's a little bit pointy at the ends. You start leaning more towards the rounded diamond shape again, which is not what you're wanting. So at that point, it's probably best to start bumping up that starting number to compensate. And I will say, there is more than one way to skin a cat, or a circle, as the case may be here. What I mean by that is that obviously you can have different methods for making a circle, and they'll probably still be fine. For instance, this pattern here is a 5 4 3 2 2 1 2 1 2 1 1 to reach the 45. Over here, I have a 5 4 3 2 1 2 1 2 1 1 1 pattern. And here's a side-by-side comparison of both of them. First one, second one. And you can tell that they don't look too much different, and overall they are both completely passable as circles. And yes, there's still a whole lot of guess and check involved. I'll usually make a shape. I'll usually actually make all the way a whole quadrant of the circle, and then I'll take a step back, look at it, and then go back in and adjust from there. And the more you build circles, the more natural they become, and the better you get at estimating what you need to do to make a good circle and adjusting them accordingly. Alright, so that was a whole lot of talking and explanation, but let's go ahead and see this in practice, shall we? Here I've gone ahead and laid out the grid, you know, the 90-degree and the 45-degree angles for an arbitrary sized circle. Now I went really extra big with this circle just to make things harder for myself. So I believe that this is a 70 block wide radius here, which then would make the full diameter of the circle roughly 141 blocks. So to go ahead and start on this, we're going to go ahead and start by going out an arbitrary number here. I'm going to just say, let's give it a healthy 6 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're going to do our countdown method a little bit here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And then for here, I think I'm going to, wow, I have a lot of space to go this way. So I'm actually going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2. See where I end up here. I feel like if I start to just go straight to the 2, 1, 2, 1 pattern, we're going to have some issues. So I'm going to make a second 2. And then we'll do the 2, 1 pattern a little bit here, until we start reaching that center area. Whew, but it does look like that this is going to be, if I had a guess from this, I'm going to say we're going to end up with the rounded diamond shape. And yeah, it does look really wonky. It looks like we have a very flat line here, so it definitely sticks on the 2, 1, 2, 1 pattern for too long, which means that this is dropping too rapidly here. Alright, so that didn't work. So I went ahead and deleted everything from this point here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to have it count across 1, 2, 3, 4 a second time, and we're going to say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we can do another 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and if that's enough, it might be enough, we're going to say 1, 2, 1, 2, and then the 1, 1, 2 pattern, 1, 1, 2, then yeah, we'll just go ahead and drop down at this point. Now we could take a look at it. Let's see if this is any better. It is looking a little bit smoother, so that's for sure. I almost wonder if it's dwelling too much on that and if it needs to drop down to the ones a little bit sooner. Alright, so how about we take out one of these 1-2s, because it seems to be dwelling too long on that. We're just going to jump straight into the 1-2-1 pattern, and maybe go and have more of the 45-degree angle at the end. Okay, at this point it's actually looking pretty good. But it's really hard to tell when you have just 1/8 of it. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is take that and we're going to copy it over to there, just that way I can see the full quadrant. Looking at it here, it certainly has improved, but it is hanging around that 45-degree angle too much. So it makes it look like there's a big flat line right there. It's looking more like a rounded octagon at this point. So I think I need to actually extend this just a little bit more. I wonder if the way to do that is to just increase the 1-1-2 pattern in by a little bit more. I don't need it to change too much, but just a little bit would probably improve it. But I also wonder if it's sitting on this 1-1-2 pattern for too long. But now that I look at it from the air, actually just increasing that 1-1-2 pattern by one more block actually seems to have fixed my problem. It's looking much more circular now, and I think I'm good to go to copy it around to the full circle. Yep, looks like a pretty good circle to me. So there we have it. We're done! Ta-da! So there you have it. This is my basic methodology for making circles in Minecraft. I know it's really pretty basic, but knowing how to build your own circles of any given size without any tools doing it for you is going to help you be a better builder. And hopefully this will give you a better idea on how to also build curves and know how to adjust them accordingly as well. So anyway, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye!